hey, Danny Grimes coming here to you guys on this Wednesday after election. What a long night, right? And who knows when we'll find out what really is happening. The good news is that people that are sitting on the fence because of the election are will be scooting off the fence, regardless of the outcome. The election will happen, people's lives will go on, and we didn't all go to dust. Now, forgive me for the background here. I had my studio professionally set up, and I've been asked to be on the Bold call today. So this call will be truncated a little bit because I have to go and get all set up. And next week, my new studio, and I'm pretty proud of that. So this is my green screen, and I understand there should be something on it, and it will be next year. How are you guys doing? Anything coming from the crowd today that you want me to cover? Because I've got something I want to go through. Because any questions? And I hear some noise in the background. So, Manny, you might want to mute yourself.
Hi, how you doing? I'm mute.
So, yeah. One of the things I'd like to cover, if you guys don't have a request, is this. In the Bold chat, there's a lot of folks that have been talking about for sale by owners and being able to articulate the value proposition for a for sale by owner. And I'm going to go over some theories. Some of these things you have seen before. However, some of you guys haven't. And I want you to be rock solid in some concepts about pricing. And so bear with me here for a second. And if you have a question, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat. Somebody will be watching that. You've seen me draw this chart before. I think everything that happens in a listing presentation has to do with pricing, because the bottom line is you can say you have the best marketing in the world, and if you don't price it right to sell it, you're not going to be able to sell it, because marketing does not forgive the sin of overpricing. So this is about as simple as it gets. And there's several points to it. Now in the conversation, and this is what I'm going to be talking about in Bold, because there's like 100 people that asked the question. And I would like you to be able to be rock solid in presenting your value proposition to a for sale by owner or to a seller in general. And I believe, the number one thing that I believe is this: we are totally free. A great agent is free to a seller. I'll demonstrate that, because there's several components of your value proposition, and if they're properly articulated, and in most cases, I'll put an asterisk, I guess not necessarily everything's 100%. Somebody might be able to do better on their own. However, generally speaking, 90% of the time or better, a seller is better off hiring an agent. So I was doing a role play earlier with my partner in the Bold script and in a for sale by owner. And what was interesting that I learned this, and I don't do a lot of for sale by owners, although I coach agents that do, and I encourage you to do it, is that I've heard this objection before. The seller, the for sale by owner, said right away, hey, I don't want to list my house. Do you have any buyers for my house? So when that question was asked by the seller, rather than being defensive, I realized I had an aha moment, is that you just learned something, potentially something very valuable. And it really depends on how the seller would answer this question. So I said, well, I might have some buyers. I would like to see your home first if I can, so I can basically tell my buyers about it. Well, I don't want you to come over here unless you have a buyer with you. Then it hit me. I finally had an important piece of the puzzle right out of the gate. And that important piece of the puzzle was this. Guess what, you guys? That seller was willing to cooperate with my broker if I brought him a qualified buyer. And so that was the question. Again, we'd never assume. I asked the question. So are you saying, Mr. Seller, that you would cooperate with my broker if I brought you a buyer that would pay you the price you're asking? And he said, yeah, I'd be willing to pay 2.5%. Now, what's golden about that is this. Sometimes when you have a conversation with a for sale by owner, most likely they are wanting to sell it on their own to save money. How much money, though, are they attempting to save? And what we want to do is, as we start to carve away at this turkey, how about that one? Thanksgiving coming. As we start to carve away at this a little bit, you want to know how much money they're attempting to save. It doesn't really matter what number they are attempting to save. It just matters you know what it is, and then you know how to attack it, so to speak. So he asked, so I clarified, I said, you're willing to pay 2.5%. The next logical question then would be, so let me ask, why are you then doing this, selling this house on your own? I am setting that, I want him to tell me, because I don't want to assume, maybe he likes to do it. Maybe he watches HGTV and he wants to do it. However, I'm waiting for the answer that, well, I want to save. I need this role play, this for sale by owner said, well, I want to net the most I can. So, I get it. So I acknowledge that objection. I say, okay, other than that, is there any other reason? I isolated, right? No, I want to save money, put more money in my pocket. Awesome. And then I asked the question, just a simple question. Well, if you could put more money in your pocket by hiring a professional like me, would that be worth a conversation? And he said, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how you could do that. All right, so maybe that question, and I'm giving you blow by blow on this, how this went. And that question seemed a little bit unbelievable to him. And so then I asked this question. Let me ask you this. If you were my brother-in-law and I owed you a favor and I said, okay, tell you what, I'm in this full time. Let me come over and I'll sell it. I'll be your listing agent for free. Would that be intriguing to you? Now, what's interesting about that, and I'll stop share here a minute, we'll see who's on here. What's interesting about that question, you guys, is that I want you to be bold enough to make a slap in the noggin type of a statement. Would you be willing to have a conversation with a seller or for sale by owner? It doesn't really matter. They're both sellers. So don't really think one is your friend and one is your enemy. They're both potential sellers. Is that if I would do it for free, would you be interested? Now that is maybe an unbelievable thing. Well, I don't know how you could do that. Well, I get that. However, would it be worth a 15-minute conversation? And while I'm there, I can take a look at your house and maybe I have a buyer for it. Anyway, it got me the appointment. So sitting at the table, it's difficult to do this, not impossible. You can do it via Zoom, I guess. I guess my goal is this. Appointments generally lead to sales, and not the phone call, the voice call that you're having with them should lead to the appointment. If you take out the appointment, I see the conversion rate go down significantly. So now that you're at the table, would you guys be able to articulate the value proposition? Now, this is what I wanted to show you. I've made these slides today. No one's ever seen them. You can give me your input on them. I'm happy to share them with you if you want. So bold statement number one is, I believe that we're free to a seller if you know your stuff. Bold statement number two is this. If you look at that, is as simple of a pricing graph as you can get. Every property for sale has two things in common. Number one, it has a price tag on it. That's the yellow axis on the left. And it has a top market value, which is the green line, that is somewhere on that pricing graph. So every property has those two things. And the third thing I'll tell you about this graph, the third amazing statement that I want you to internalize and not be afraid to say, is that the top market value is not a determinable number. It is not, you cannot determine it prior to exposing it. I'm just going to flip through a couple of slides. Let me go back to that one right there. I know people believe in CMAs. You can do a CMA until your knuckles bleed. And what it's going to do is show you where the market was. Now, again, we've had upward pressure on the market. And if you were to really graph that green line, it might be trending upward. However, in a seller's market, in the sweet spot of a seller's market, by definition, a seller's market, there's upward movement on price, which also means by definition, future sales are where the past sales were plus something. So you could say, Denny, well, there's comp one, comp two. I know the market value, and let's say that those comps are 300, 310. I know the market's going to be above it. Okay, fair guess. How much above it? And that is not determinable until you actually expose it. Now I'm going back to that slide and going to this one first. If you're meeting with this is for a for sale by owner. If you're meeting with a for sale by owner and their property is on the market, maybe it's been on the market a week, maybe a month, who knows? And it has not sold yet. The first thing I want you to make note of, did it sell at point, is it listed at point B or, sorry about that, or point A? Most likely it's at point A. So I wanted to demonstrate this conversation a little bit, because if you're meeting with a listing, a potential listing before they have it exposed, you don't have any feedback on the market yet because it's not exposed. If you're meeting with a buy owner that's already on the market, most likely they're above the green line. Now, their decision isn't where they're going to price it initially because they've already set the asking price. Their decision is, if you're wrong, how do you correct it? So I'm going to handle that first, because if you're meeting with a buy owner and you ask them, how's the activity going? How many offers have you had? In my role play I did, the guy was a really great seller. He said, well, I've had 2 lowball offers. What's interesting about that is, were they lowball or were they offers that were in the range of the market? However, from the seller's perspective, based on their expectations, were they lowball offers? So my dialogue to you, if you were the for sale by owner, listen, you've been on the market now 10 days, 2 weeks. At what point in time, if you don't get an offer that's acceptable, what are you going to do next? And if they say, well, I just take it off the market, I don't need to sell. Obviously, you want to go into motivation, assuming they're motivated. And we've had this conversation before. If you're working with a seller with motivation, I don't die on the sword on price. So, okay, so you have motivation. They're going to say, well, I'll probably have to come down. That's where you want them. Because let me ask you, and this is the question you would ask, how far down would you go? Well, I don't know. Right now he's at 350. I'd come down to maybe 335. All right. Will that be at the green line? We don't know. We just know one of 3 things will happen, right? There's your in. Well, let me ask you, if you were to do that, is it possible that you or a seller like you that has had their home exposed to this market, and so far, Mr. Seller, the market said no to your price, would it be conceivable that a seller would reduce their price maybe 1% too low? In which case, they're doing that, they're going below the line, and you might be selling it 1% too low. So in this case, maybe it's 350,000. Excuse me, that's $3,500. Now that is totally conceivable, you guys, and very probable. If you're dealing with a seller that has not listed their home yet, the conversation is, where would you price it? If you don't know where green is, the green line is, where would you price it? Point A or point B? And I think I just said this a little bit ago, or it might have been on the role play. It's worth writing down. Sellers don't need us to sell a home. Sellers don't need us to sell their home. Anyone could give it away. So on the initial price, a seller, a for sale by owner, may think their agent did a good job because they listed it and sold it in a day. All right, maybe, maybe not. A for sale by owner is going to list their home because they sold it. They'll tell you about the stories back in the dark ages when Nixon was president. Oh, I had my home, I sold it myself in 3 days. Really? Yeah, they probably did. However, you don't know how far below that green line they sold it. There is no skill in selling a house below the green line. The skill is selling it at the green line. That's what we do. And I'm only using 1%. If you miss it by 1%, that's $3,000. They're attempting in this particular role play. He was planning on paying a 5% commission, paying 2.5% to the other broker, and he's attempted to save 2.5%. Well, he just lost 1%. Now, all this blood, sweat, and tears he's going through is in order to save basically 1.5%. 2. So again, I'm meeting with a for sale by owner. Let me ask you this, you guys, Mr. Seller. You said you'd cooperate with another agent, and I want to commend you because that's a brilliant move. You know why? Why? Because according to the National Association of Realtors, people that go or sold for sale by owners like yourself, 90% sell with the help of another agent, sometimes 2 agents. So that's great. However, when that agent comes in, who do you think they're going to want to please the most? They're going to please the buyer by getting them a better buy on the house, or please you and put more money in your pocket, which they've never met you before. So who are they going to be working for? That's common sense, right? What we're doing is we're going to rip away at this 2.5%, where any rational person would say, well, I get what you mean. That doesn't mean they're going to go along with us. However, this argument is totally solid. So when they submit an offer, they're going to be working for the buyer. Will you at least acknowledge that? Yes. Is it possible? And I sometimes go to the third person. A seller would negotiate an offer, maybe a percent, maybe a 0.5% lower than if they had somebody that was a professional negotiator working for them. Is it possible? It's like we take an attorney to court. We don't need an attorney. We take it because they know what they're doing, and it may be more expensive for us if we don't use an attorney. So that's number 2. So we went from 2.5%, we took it down to 1.5%, and now I've taken another 0.5% away just on the negotiations. Next, I see Kevin's name up there. You don't have to. I just use your name instead of Mr. Seller. So Kevin, and then once you get your house under contract, there's going to be a series of contingencies, financing, inspection. So let's assume they set up a home inspection and they come over and they find some things on the home inspection. Who will you be using to negotiate those repair items? Well, what do you mean? Well, you know that many times buyers want sellers to fix everything, and it may not be contractual. They may threaten to pull out of the transaction. If you didn't have anybody there to basically give you advice, you may feel a little bit pressured. Is it at least possible that a seller might invest a 0.5% on fixing things they don't have to fix? This is very, very conservative, you guys. And then, by the way, you notice that most of the contracts that come in this price range use financing. And again, a condition of financing is an appraisal. And we're in an upward moving market. And with that, sometimes the comparables are behind what the sales prices are. And what happens if the appraisal comes in low? What do you think the agent's going to do for the very first thing they're going to do? Yeah, they're going to come and knock on your door and see if they can't renegotiate. Is it possible because you feel you already got your moving truck ordered because you didn't have anyone give you the blow the whistle to let you know when you could do all those things? You've already made plans. You've got a deposit down on the rental where you're going, etc. Is it possible a seller may have another 0.5% out of pocket that they would not have? Now, we've taken it down in several easy steps, all the way down to the 2.5. And I know it could be 3% or wherever you are, whatever your fee is. However, can you articulate that? And then I'm not even done. It is right now we're free. That is a statement. I am demonstrating how you and I can be free to a seller. In fact, now we're going to start putting money into the seller's pocket. Are we going to do that? Well, let me ask you, Kevin, as a seller, what is your time worth? I mean, you're going to have to go back and forth. I know you have a job and you're attempting to get your kids to school, et cetera, or maybe this home is vacant. You're going to have to drive over or hire someone to do it. Is that going to be worth anything to you? And oh, by the way, how about the legal liability? And now you have anybody watching out for the legal side of this to make sure you don't do something you shouldn't do, or you disclose everything you should disclose. And lastly, well, you're going to probably have to hire someone to maybe draw up a contract or look at a contract or do some title work, or you might have to have a lawyer. You think that might be a little money out of pocket. And that's the beauty of this, you guys. Understand just how simple this business is. When you can acknowledge to a seller that they don't need us, because and this is a script. You don't need us to sell your home because anyone can give your home away. You don't need it. Anyone can price it low and sell it. Can you price it at the green line? Can you price it where you can get the green line? You know why that line is green, don't you? Because that's money. That's your equity that goes in your pocket. So, any thoughts on that?
Nice, thank you.
All right.
Beautiful.
Let's get
Sam.
into some objections. I have to be off here a little bit sooner today because of the bull call. I apologize for that. It won't happen next week. So somebody type in the chat box what objection they'd like us or scenario they'd like to role play. I have about 10 minutes today. And again, I apologize. I didn't know I had to be there a little early. So which one would you like to cover? Maybe you have an appointment coming up you'd like to role play before the appointment. I'm looking. No one's typing. Hi. Or maybe you just bumped your microphone. David, you've got to have one. Come on. Commission.
Yeah, I was out. What's the question?
I wanted to have a scenario. All right. So I've got somebody, just hang on there. I got a commission objection. So are they wanting to pay you more or pay you less? How should I do this? Kidding.
Want to pay less? They want to pay less.
Okay. So will you be the seller?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, all right. Follow the model, acknowledge, isolate, answer, and then basically close. So, and it's Tam, right? Tamara?
Tamara.
Yeah, Tamara, let me ask you then, when you ask about commission, why do you ask about that?
Well, I want to make as much money as I can from the sale. So it would help me move on to the next home. And I want to come out little as possible out of pocket when I buy the next home.
Oh, I certainly understand that. That'd be awesome, right? So other than if we can get together on the fee, is there anything else that would prevent you from doing business with me today?
Well, what is your fee? And is fee and commission the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, forgive me. Forgive me.
No. This is all part of the script. I know it's the
No,
same.
I know you're involved. However, that's a great point, you guys. And you know, my conditioning, that was a mistake on my part. I was taught a long time ago by Tommy Hopkins, there are certain words you don't use. And one of them is commission. You don't have them sign, you have them okay, acknowledge, or endorse.
Okay.
You were taught never to sign anything. And so, however, I should be using her words. Great lesson. You just taught me something. So yes, it's commission's the same thing. So if we can get together on commission, would you be ready to move forward with me today?
Okay, so I would like to only pay 5% because I have no money. I know that the house needs some work. I know I need painting. It's a large house. That'll probably cost me about $6,000, $7,000. I need carpet, and I don't have that money to make those repairs, and so it will sell at market value.
I get it. Well, okay. So are you saying then if we agreed on the commission, that you're happy with the commission, are you ready to move forward with me today?
If I'm happy with the commission, yes, I am.
Now, if this is a great example of how the seller is basically painting themselves in a corner. Because my next question is going to be, it's going to put an exclamation point on it. So it sounds like you need every dollar you can get out of this house, right?
That is correct.
Guess what? I just set her up, didn't I? So in real estate terms, we say that the seller, you would want to net the most money. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Now, have you interviewed any other agents? I mean, or have you already made the decision to use me?
No, you haven't told me much of what you will do. What's your marketing strategy?
Yeah, well, we're going to have to bypass that from a time standpoint, Tam. So
Yeah.
let's assume we went through that.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I would have already known if you're interviewing because I would have already asked. And
Okay.
so I would go I'll just skip that. I'll come back in a different direction. So basically, are you saying then, Tamara, if I can net you what you want to net or maybe more, that you
Mhm.
can hire me?
Yeah. Would I hire you? I would like to I would like to interview a couple more agents before I make my final decision.
Okay. Now, okay. So, and again, now she's throwing me a curveball. I asked and this can happen. This can be very realistic. Let's just assume, because for time's sake, I have to get off here,
Yeah.
that I would have covered that up. I would have covered that by now. We isolated it to the commission. I want to now go from you said 5%, right? And let's just assume what's the purchase price of your home?
$499.
All right, 500. Okay, so if you're asking for 5%, then 1% would be $5,000. That's what you're attempting to save. Is that correct?
Yes, that would help. That will help quite a bit in terms of what I need to do to the house.
So, assuming that basically, so let's have this discussion because you've already made a decision. You want me to represent you. Now, if you want me to represent you, would you want me to give you good information to make good decisions?
Of course, yes.
Right. Well, let me ask you what's more important, what you pay in commission or what you net at the end of the transaction?
Well, I know netting makes a bit, I mean, that's why I'm wanting to pay less commission because I do want to net more. But yeah, you did tie me in. You got me against the wall. Netting is most important.
Right. And so if I can demonstrate to you that basically because of my track record, the guarantees, my marketing, all the things we talked about that will put more money in your pocket, is the 6% an issue versus 5%? Is $5,000 going to be the issue?
No, I do know your track record, and I do know that you're hardworking. You will get the home sold. I was just trying to get a little bit more cushion in my pocket, is what I was trying to do.
I totally respect that. However, would you respect me as your agent if you were a better negotiator than me? Because I'm negotiating your equity when the other buyer comes in. And would you want your agent to be a strong negotiator in order to put more
Yes,
money in your pocket?
that's correct. Yes, I would.
And by the way, I'm just giving you, I wouldn't go through all these because I think she's ready to basically move forward. And
Yeah, yeah.
another tack, you could go at
Uh-huh.
5%, 2.5 of that is going off the buyer's side. So let me ask you, you think it would be to your advantage to make your house less competitive with your neighbors? So I'm going to go down that route because everything
Okay.
you've got to retrain their thinking to be on the track that it's not what they pay, it's what they net. And a great agent, we should be able to negotiate around that. And again, commission is going to come up a lot, and we've covered it a number of times here. And that's probably several of you guys could have done that. Maybe all of you guys could have done that. The bottom line is, and another negotiating tactic. However, it doesn't teach you anything on this class. I'm not saying I would do that with everyone. A great negotiating tactic is really say, no, we don't discount. Are you ready to move forward?
I like that. That's simple.
It is simple. So don't
It's
make it
simple.
like a 15-minute conversation like I attempt to do on role play.
Yeah, yeah.
So I owe you guys one. Again, I was on the Bold call yesterday. It was a great Zoom. We had 2,000 people on it. And we're going to go a little bit deeper today. And we'll probably have about half that many on it. If you're in Bold, log on. And have any questions, send me an email at CoachDannyGrimes@gmail.com. Thank you for being on next Wednesday. It'll be a full hour, and that'll be the last Wednesday. And then I think we go to Tuesdays and Thursdays. So again, forgive me for having to get off early. Thank you so much for being on, and be careful out there.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thank you, Denny.
You're right, Rick.
You
No,
make it look.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denny.